Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the Sargent 6300. This is their this is their typical, common, ubiquitous, removable, interchangeable core. Interchangeable would be the term that we'd like to use. Removable might mean that you can remove a cylinder from a piece of equipment like you could on a Schlage G-lock, a very old interconnected style lock. That cylinder was removable, but it wasn't interchangeable. You couldn't take that cylinder and then stick it into a A-line lock, etc. This would be interchangeable in that any Sargent lock, cylinder, housing that is set, to receive full-size interchangeable core from Sargent, this will go into. So it's interchangeable. That's the 6300. So what determines this is it's a 6300. It happens to be in a 626 finish with an LF keyway, and the factory has O-bitted this, meaning there are a couple of keys that are included. It's O-bitted. They're just blanks. I don't know what the control shear line has been pinned to because I don't know what the control bitting is. So in Sargent, you have control chambers in positions 3 and 4, Medico as well. And what's less common about the Sargent is that control lug is on the right side, and you turn it counterclockwise to retract the control lug. Others are clockwise rotation. So I don't know what they've pinned there to get to the control sleeve, and we'll talk more about the pinning of that in a moment. Okay, so a typical figure 8 style size, larger than small format. Small format is known as the best type, best lock, Falcon, Arrow, and countless other clones, etc. of it. There are a couple of dimpled holes on the back of this, and I have forgotten what that means. And I have literally Sargent in live chat right now, and I'll update this video as we go along. Combinating this would be done via top loading. That spring cover would come off, your springs would come out, your driver pins, your 2 control pins in 3 and 4, and then your master and, if any, and your bottom pins. I've recently learned that Sargent recommends your control cut in chambers 3 and 4. One should be lower than the TMK and the other should be higher than the TMK. It's a recommendation from them in terms of what that is. Might make a lot of sense to have one certainly deeper than the TMK. You don't want to take a control and then file it down to be able to get to, you don't want to have 2 of them shallower than the TMK so that you can file them both down to then create a top master key for your system. LF Keyway, we're going to show you the structure of this. We're going to show you the structure of the key structure is what I'm driving at in this LF Keyway. This client is doing a 6-pin system here. Okay, going to be able to do this, of course, in countless keyways, whether it be just typical material like this, unprotected, just common keyways, or they're protected in high security keyways. And I did receive a response from the factory about those 2 dimples. It's just internal auditing in terms of what machine this would have come off of when it was being manufactured. Okay, that's all that means. They use the reason I had asked the factory is because they use dimples in the back of the material to identify versions, etc. If you dig into the catalog deeper, or if you look into maybe a technical manual, you'll see a reference or some references to what variant, what version, what generation something is, something in that regard. Okay, so there's no need to remove that clip on the back. Top loading is how you're going to do this. There's no advantage to loading the plug and then putting your control lug in there, loading the plug with pins, sliding it in there. You still have to top pin or load it from the top. So if you're going to combine this material, you'll obviously need not only the pins, but you're going to need the springs, the proper springs, and of course the slide spring covers as well. Okay, let's switch to the screen view and take a closer look at some supporting documentation. So this is indeed the item that we are here and looking at. Okay, and not much to see here, although there is a link below this video to a cut sheet, which we'll take a look at in a moment. Okay, so the link below this video to the cut sheet is going to be the document as seen here. And they talk about the 6300 series, large format interchangeable core, LFIC. They call it removable. Yeah, you can remove it, but if you were to look in the list console, so the list, L-I-S-T, locksmith dictionary, should be able to find it there. I know that we have a link to it in our site as well. Yeah, they have it just broken up by pages. I'm looking for a single document. Let's do this. Let's go to our site, go to manufacturers, wherever you see that link, go to ABS, and then let's do a find function for list. Okay. And it's here. It's called Locksmith Dictionary. I'm going to rename that to List Console Locksmith Dictionary. And as you get that document open, you can search for removable, and you'll get to the R section eventually. Removable core, removable cylinder. You know, and you'll be able to also look up interchangeable as a term in the dictionary, and you'll see that the definitions do deviate. You know, interchangeable core means that the cylinder can go into, you know, practically everything within a specific manufacturer's product line, whereas something removable doesn't mean that it will, like my Schlage G-Lock example again, doesn't mean that cylinder can come out and go into their A-Lock. Okay, so there are instances where cylinders are removable, but that does not make them capable of interchange with other platforms within the same manufacturer's material. So, master key system, LFIC, large format interchangeable core. The other moniker is for small format is SFIC. Schlage uses FSIC rather than SFIC for full-size interchangeable core. Marketing term, really. You'll need a control key to insert and remove these cylinders. 6-pin is standard. 1-bitted available for field keying, which is what we have here. 1-bitted cylinder supplied with 2 keys, blank springs in chambers 3 and 4 only. Okay, so that's apparently what's happening here, and it makes sense because the action on the cylinder feels very odd. I can, now that I'm you know, really inspecting the cylinder, there are just, you know, chambers in. There are just pins in those 2 chambers only. So they've obviously pinned it to the shear line, to the plug shear line, maybe used a long driver so that it operates only at that shear line and not the control lug. So that's how they've done that. So it's not pinned to the control is what I did not previously know before reading this. These are the families of keyways. In addition to that, of course, you can do the restricted material as well. And I had said 626, but they say that this is a US 15 finish. It'll be compatible with any stainless, satin chrome, satin nickel sort of finishes. Okay, order it by 6300. I don't think you need to say LFIC, and then your finish, and then of course the keyway, and any keying that you'd like to have done as well. You'll be able to come up with that. The next page of the document shows us our LF keyway and all of the other standard keyways in their multiplex system, their L family. And there's that LF. So it's right in the center of the entire structure. right here. Multiplex structure allows you to deploy different keyways for different applications, allows you to employ multi-section key blanks, multi-section and then an all-section blank to control those different key cylinders. And the discussion of a multiplex keyway is a different video altogether, but suffice it to say that, let's say these three keyways here, E, F, and G in the L family, have their own keyway, but they can all be passed by an LH blank. Okay. In addition to that, the LN blank would pass them as well. And all they've done is remove more material from the key blank so that they pass the different wardings, or the different wards, I should say, that occur in this keyway. Very interestingly, they are giving you a quite generic representation of their keyway that's here. This appears to be all the same. Okay, not revealing what their keyway looks like. Part numbers for key blanks are here as well, should you need to order some of those. You're going to be down here in the 6275 for a 6-pin. They can also do 7-pin. But that, of course, would be for cylinders other than a 6300. They'll only run a 6-pin through their interchangeable core. Okay. Very interesting about how control keys, how a interchangeable core will substantially impact the quantity of control key, theoretical change keys that you have capable, because you need to dedicate, one pin, one progressive in chambers 3 and 4 to that control key, so you have to pull them out of the key bitting array. So you really end up losing a substantial quantity of the theoreticals. And you lose about 50% of your theoretical capacity for pinning when you have to dedicate 2 progressives in a chamber for a control key. And that would be a reason why you'd have a multiplex system, because if I could only do 2,000 theoreticals in a system in a keyway, and I've got 7,000 doors, gonna definitely need to implement a multiplex system where I can have 1,500 keyways, whatever, before the max losses on 5 or 6, spread them out to different keyways, so you have expansion. You'll definitely be employing multi-section blanks at that point. Okay. So speaking of the information about how to pin the material, this link here to the manufacturer's page, that has on it 6300 removable core keying and assembly manual, the 5100 and 6300 series removable core pinning manual. The 5100, this is obviously an older document because well, I don't know that it's older, but I believe that it is because it refers to the 5100, which is the predecessor to the 6300, with a rear control lug. But the 6300 is the one that we're dealing with, which is this link here. And that will give you, it's a very brief document. It will give you the nuts and bolts in terms of how to combine this material. And it's basically quite simple. To figure out what your pins are, you're going to take your control key, you're going to add 8 to it, and then from that number, you're going to subtract your pin stack. And then you'll come up with your control driver, or what they're calling a control split. And then in the control chambers, you'll subtract all of that from 20, and that will be your driver pin. So in this example that they give here in chamber 3, they have a 2 cut for the AA1 and a 2 for the AA, and then a 4 for the A. So we've got a 2 bottom pin and a 2 master. So they're saying that our control is a 6. So 6 plus 8 is 14, minus your pin total, which is 4. Which gives you a 10. So now we know we've got a 4 and a 10 minus 20 would give you a 6 driver pin. So pretty simple to pin that up, and I realize I did that quickly. And if you want to talk, if you're watching this video, you probably don't need to have it explained more slowly, but if you do, once you get your cylinders and all your parts from us, I'll be happy to walk that through with you. A little exploded diagram here of what the cylinder looks like. And again, it would be, I've never taken one apart for the sake of doing so. I see no reason to ask for trouble, and I've not heard that the control lug is difficult to put back in or it doesn't work well after it. But locksmiths will encourage you to not take that clip off the back. They're meant to be top-loaded. That's just how it is. Okay. You might use a small index drill bit to put in here to line everything up in 3 and 4 before you get one of them loaded if you feel that that's necessary, etc. So not too much to this document really at all. Also on the manufacturer's page will be a link to the current product catalog. That's here. Lots of old catalogs. You want to see what they were doing in 1901? Well, there's your catalog. Other Sargent products can be reviewed by means of this horizontal navigation here, and then a link to the manufacturer's website. A very handy link to the website, a very dependable group of folks over at Sargent. These people do it very, very well. Her sister companies would be, when it comes to keying, it'd be Medico, first and foremost. And if you dive into the world of protected, restricted key systems from Sargent, you will, if you're familiar with Medico, you will see things that are very familiar to you. Other companies would be Yale, Corbin Russwin, Rockwood, Pemco, Folger Adams Wright, etc. Lots of sister companies. Seco, obviously, would be their door sister company. Let's wrap up this video on camera. So in conclusion, a very typical product from Sargent. LF Keyway for me is a little bit less common. Of course, the LA would be the pretty common one, but there's nothing unusual about LF whatsoever. It just happens to be less common. 2 original blanks if you're going to pin this material yourself, and this client will. This is a hospital system in Nebraska who has a deployment of Sargent Sable locks. Sable was a electronic combination lock, discontinued from Sargent many years ago, and no replacement. Well, her sister company Yale has their, and I forget the part number, but their NTB 600 series, and that is an electronic combination lock with different options. It's Yale, but Yale will make that to accept a Sargent large format core. So we were able to upgrade the client away from the Sable, thankfully, because I needed the electronic combination, but we needed to preserve the LF Keyway that's in existence. So that worked out quite well for us. And as I had said earlier about Sargent's people being quite predictable and dependable, with focus on dependable, they pointed me in the right direction. You might want to take a look at Yale. They may be able to help you. So that was really great. Any questions on the 6300 in a 15 finish, not 626, in an LF Keyway, or any other Sargent product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you. If you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up. Please click subscribe as well, and even share the video with someone that you know. And if you have any questions for a future video, please send them our way and we will make every attempt to oblige. And thank you very much.